So I use humor as a coping mechanism. I think that's fairly clear. Also, who doesn't? Well, not everyone. At least not in the way that I do. Which seems weird to me, admittedly, but anyway, the point is, I use humor in a clearly very sarcastic way. Like, I've learned to accept that the depth of what I'm intending in my sarcasm is, you either get it or you don't. I guess the people who do understand immediately, and the people who don't will probably never understand, and you just accept that and you move on, right? But at various points, so I use comedy in what I say, and I use comedy in what I write. And so at various points throughout my life, people have suggested, not like all the time, but occasionally, because I'm otherwise not very funny, I'm often very sad. Like, that's not unusual either for people who care about comedy, obviously. But people will say, you should be a comedian. You should do stand-up. And they usually say it like that. And I always have a hard time explaining to them not just why I don't want to do that, but why the very idea is offensive to me. Why I don't have fundamental respect for that idea. And ultimately, even though I love comedy in theory, I still am more disappointed by stand-up comedy as an art form, as a means of medicine, than I am by anything else in the world. Why? Right, this is what I would like to explain. Well, it's very simple. It's because stand-up comedians, when they say, I killed last night, they don't mean that they... In today's world, when someone says, I killed last night, you should, you'd better know that they are a professional comedian. Or else determine the literalness of what they just said. Like, how literal are you being? But what they mean is a very specific thing. They mean that when they went up to a microphone, and as soon as they started to talk, people started to laugh hard, and they didn't stop laughing until the comedian stopped talking into the microphone, and then they walked away from the microphone, and then everyone stands up. And here's the thing. They stand up, and at some point, they all go home. They survived. They didn't kill anyone, unless someone had a heart condition. Why does this matter? Because actually laughing until you're dead would be, as a means of euthanasia assistance, at once the most hilarious and efficient way to do that. Okay, that's technically not a joke, although it is funny. It is funny. It's hilarious to imagine someone laughing until they're dead, and it's not because they have a heart condition. It's just because the joke was that funny. That is hilarious. Right? And there are only two preciously valuable things offered by the stand-up comedy or comedy writing universe, and that is laughing uncontrollably, which would ideally mean that you laugh until you're dead. But it doesn't, is the thing. So that's preciously valuable and hilarious. And the other thing is bombing. Bombing is hilarious. The idea of someone going up to a microphone with the express and exclusive intention with, of making everyone laugh, and then nobody laughs. That is so fucking funny. Every time. I don't understand how no one can laugh when nobody's laughing, because it's always hilarious to me. Bombing's hilarious. But it's everything in between. It's everything in between bombing and making people laugh until they die that constitutes professional, successful comedian life. Right? People who are good enough to make people laugh consistently enough to be paid enough to do this as a career. And I fucking... the thing is, you are all comedians. That is, you are all a profound disappointment. Not only a disappointment, you are the most disappointing aspect of an already extremely disappointing existence. Because if anyone could just tell a joke that is so funny that I laugh until I'm dead, which again would be the most hilarious and efficient way to go about doing that. If anyone could do that, they should do that, but they can't. Myself included. No one is that funny. And that is a fucking outrage, right? That is disgustingly disappointing. No matter how funny a joke is. Like, laughter is medicine, but it's not enough medicine. It's not a lethal dose of morphine kind of medicine. Is it? Unfortunately, no. Right? Which is why I have no interest in being... I would never... If I were to ever go to a comedy venue of any kind and go to a microphone, this is all I would say. In addition to saying to all of the human beings there that sexuality is gross and you are all disgusting, lying cowards. And you apparently need the money that you're going to refuse to tip your waitresses. And yet you're here, spending it. Which means you're fucking irresponsible and stupid and just like fuck you people. Even if I could tell a joke that was funny enough to make all of you die, I wouldn't, out of spite. Because you don't deserve it. You know, like, fuck that. Right, I genuinely disapprove of humanity. I genuinely disapprove of this existence. And I genuinely desire euthanasia assistance. And I am genuine when I say that the ideal form of that would be a joke. Except no one is that funny. And what is the alternative? In terms of efficiency, by way of contrast, what is the alternative to that? Because if you die of laughter, you're dying essentially of asphyxiation. Basically, I guess. What is the alternative? The alternative is to what? Buy a plane ticket and fly to Sweden, where they have built oxygen deprivation euthanasia tanks, or pods. Which is a little funny, but it's not funny enough. Right? It's obviously not funny enough. Because you have to go to Sweden and talk to a Swedish doctor and say, "Doctor, you have to give me barbiturates and opiates, I guess, to make me pass out, and then put me in a plastic tank and remove the oxygen, and then I'm dead, because you're not funny enough to tell me a joke." You could just fucking tell me a joke that was funny enough, and I would die in exactly the same way, and it would be so much better for everyone, and it would be more efficient. It wouldn't cost any money. It wouldn't require a passport or a plane ticket or the construction of an electric oxygen deprivation suicide pod. But you're not that funny, Doc. So in I go. In I go. Sad music. Because it would have to be. It wouldn't be funny music. I guess it could be You know, it could be, but like, that still is not funny enough. It's not funny enough. Right? That's the problem with like troll nihilistic humor too. Is it's not that it's offensive, it's that it's not funny enough. You can say whatever filthy words you want because they're just words. Like, I don't care, and I don't think anyone with half a brain really does care about offensive words. But they're not funny enough. That's it. I'm not funny enough, obviously. I would only deign to be a professional comedian as a means of euthanasia assistance. Because that's what it should be. That's what it's always been. That's what people have always wanted it to be, fundamentally. And that's what it will never be. Tragically, not comically, tragically, comedy will always fucking fall short. Because I've watched people kill as comedians, as they say, which is not literal. Right? I watched Louis C.K., for example, do a show where he killed. He walked up to the microphone and everything he said was hilarious the whole time, and everyone in the room laughed the whole time. And then he walked away from the microphone, and everyone stood up and said, yeah, great job. And then we all went home, is the problem, and went to sleep, and then woke up again, trapped in this fucking existence. So he's a disappointment. And of all people, the fact that he, right before then, had been publicly canceled at the height of his career, you know it, I know it, because he had been masturbating in front of people. And man, did that piss me off, not because one was like part of the, it's such a convoluted, I really care about suffering caused from sexual abuse. Like, I really care. So much so that I don't want it to ever happen. Meaning the number of victims that I think is acceptable is 0. And the way to make it 0, like 0, is for everyone to stop having children and then just die. Because mathematically speaking, that is the solution to all of our problems. But no one accepts that problem other than people like me who talk about things like euthanasia assistance. Right? But Louis C.K. was handed the most ideal setup, if there ever was one, for a joke that would be funny enough to make me laugh until I was dead. And I thought, maybe he's about to fucking do it. Like, the stars have aligned. This person who is at the peak of their career, they're the most famous comedian on earth, he had finally put on a suit for once, like for the first time ever. He had reached that level of attainment and ability, and he had been just handed the greatest setup for exactly the lethal intensity of a joke that I need, that the world needs. And then he didn't tell that joke. He still hasn't told the joke. Let's face it, he's never gonna fucking tell the joke. He can't. He's not capable of being that funny. And no one else is. The end. Again, like there's no, that is the joke, except it's not funny enough. It's a cruel joke. It's a cruel joke.